Right, so there we go. After stitching on that bead, turn it aside and do the top stitching. So now we're done with the top stitching. The next thing we need to do is to sew these other parts. So getting right side together, we're using the fabric cover. Okay, so this two, I've used this two as the main fabric. So whenever I'm placing it, I'm placing these two together while this stands as the lining. So what we need, so we're just going to stitch all over here. So stitches. Right, so using your zipper foot, this is what we'll begin to do. Remember to change the zipper foot for the side, and then you stitch as you take off the clips. Right, so there we go, stitched in there. The next thing we need to do is open up the zip from in there and then flip it to the other side so that we can top stitch this one just like we top stitch, and then we can top stitch this corner just like what we've done. The next thing we need to do is just to top stitch. You can see, because I've used a very thick outer layer, which is that one. This is my main fabric, but I wanted it to have this layer on it. This is a very thick one, so it's a bit difficult, so you just have to use your hand and pull it that way, okay, and flatten it the much you can. Okay, it might be a bit difficult for your machine depending on what sewing machine you're using, but basically ensure it's flat facing that way before you do the top stitching. You can pin it down. Right, there we go. So I'm just repeating what I've done on that side, top stitching. Right, so here we got the top stitching all done. Meanwhile, I had to carry on, when you've done those beads and then stitch them together and then do this other one the same way and then top stitch. So it's time to do the back now. So what we need to do, get these two together just like you're seeing in here, and get that one together as well. Okay, so ensure you have it that way. So now we're going to go right round on those four corners. We'll just leave a little bit somewhere here. Our lining is quite soft compared to this bit, so you have to be really careful. So we're going to leave just a little bit, measurement about 4 inches around there, and then the rest of it just go right round. Also, I've used a different technique because I wanted it to have a little bit of a design around here. Otherwise, if you use a zip which goes all the way through, when you're stitching, ensure you've got this bit all close together before you sew around. But I'll show you what I mean. So let's get sewing. There we go. So just spin it down and then sew right round all through, leaving about 4 inches on the side. Right, so there we go. Remember, we're sewing this with scrap. I've done all these beads. I've decided to leave the opening on this side. Okay, it's easier for me that way rather than the bottom, but some people might prefer to do it at the bottom. So we've got this bit all sewn right round, leaving a little opening for turning it inside out. So we're just going to turn it inside out now. Before we turn it inside out, before we do that, we're just going to stitch this corner. All you need to do is to form the triangle, how to form a box corner. You can check some of my previous video to see how to sew a box corner. So we're going to lift this up and form it into a triangle, ensuring this line touches this line. Okay, so you're going to kiss it together. All right, so there we go. So we're going to ensure this bottom bit aligns with the side, okay, and flatten it, because if you're using a very thick fabric like what I'm using in here, especially this plastic one, you have to try and flatten it while you do the sewing. Okay, so we're just going to get this as flat as we can, and then depending on how wide you want the bottom of your pouch to look like, you can measure about 2 inches. Okay, so 2 inches and then go that way. So we just stitch, do the same thing on all the 4 corners, including that one. We're going to make it into triangular shape just like what we've done on that one, and then do the same thing for the lining as well and that bit. Okay, and then we're good to go. There we go. And then you need to just trim off the slices. Right, so now you can see we've done the box corners of the 4 edges. Look at that, 4 of them, including the lining. So now we're just going to turn it inside out from that little space which we left here. Okay, so turn the bag out from this little space. For this edges, remember I did leave a little space. You can see the zip. This is optional. If you've used a very long zip, if you're using a very long zip, you don't need to do this bit. So what I'm going to do now is just to give it a little stitch there, and then on this other side as well, just a little bit, and then before we do the turning out. So here we got the final look. final look of the pouch. You can see how beautiful it looks. Look at that. Okay, look at the look at that. So you can try this and let me know what you think. There we go. Get that in there. Look at that.